Well, I just happen to have this blank check lying around the workshop, and in true Josh fashion, let's just fill that out and start using that, huh? Welcome back to the Scale Builders Guild. Thanks again for watching. It's episode 5 of the Axial SCX24 Budget Build Off, and here it is. It's had a few things done to it. Not a lot yet, because we're going to be doing some of those things this week. If you are not familiar with the budget build format, it's where Josh from Harley Designs and myself take an existing vehicle, in this case the Axial SCX24, or at least what's left of one, and build them to our tastes, spending $50 each week. And that sounds like an awful lot for an Axial SCX24, but these upgrades do add up and make for a very rewarding build experience, I must say. Taking something this small usually doesn't offer a lot of upgrades, but this truck really has exploded on the market. And there are a ton of manufacturers making a ton of great upgrades. And because last week was a free week, and I saved a whole bunch of money in previous weeks, I've got a bit of money in the old wallet to spend this week. Blank checks not included, of course. But there are some pretty cool upgrades coming this week, and I'm pretty excited to get into them. So let's just get right to it. As you can see, not a lot has happened to the body yet. I did a little bit more patchwork on some of the more less smooth areas that are requiring a little more effort to get those finished. But I'm pretty happy with the progress on that. And one thing you will notice is that now the body is hinged to the chassis. This is the first step in sort of mounting the body. There's going to be a couple other things that are going to happen in coming weeks, but I thought I would start with a pretty simple 3D designed element that could go on this truck. And unlike Josh, I will be counting the cost of the filament. You can't really cost out a 3D printer over time like this, and of course you are at a disadvantage if you don't have one, but there are enough people in this hobby that do, that you could certainly find somebody to print something like this for you. And I think that it's fair to say going forward that counting the cost of the filament is the best way to sort of approach this. And if anybody is interested, and I know that a lot of people are using this ECX cage now on their builds, I'll put a link to my Thingiverse where you can download that file for free and print out your own mount. It's a pretty simple little piece, not much to it really, and for 43 cents in filament costs, I think it's worth it. It does integrate into the existing deadbolt hinge system there, and then it just kind of creates this nice little space and doesn't get in the way of any of the other things that are on the truck. So I thought that was a nice piece. We'll probably finish off the mounting system with some sort of clip that goes on the front, and maybe we'll even make a bumper out of it, so it's sort of like a friction fit that just kind of clips that into place. I think that'll be a nice little way to wrap that up. All right, on to the next thing. We're going to be installing from Bauhaus RC the low CG battery tray for the SCX24. And this includes two pieces. Actually, one of them's already on the truck. So let me get that off and then we'll go through this whole thing together. You actually, here's a better look at that hinge mount. As you can see, it's a pretty simple little piece. There's not much to it. There is an SBG logo on it though. Hard to see, but it's there. This is sort of designed to work specifically with that ECX Barrage case, and all you will need after printing it is one little M2 or M1.5 bolt to attach the cage to the mount. Pretty straight ahead. Use existing bolts that you took off the hinge mount when you took off the deadbolt body. Super easy. Okay, in previous weeks I did remove the battery tray just to kind of get things sort of sorted for where the body was going to go, but now we're going to be adding that new low CG battery tray from Bauhaus RC, and this comes in two parts. The first part, these are very nicely printed nylon prints, probably a Shapeways or some sort of SLS printer that they've got access to. Includes a little strap routing system there, so you can add a Velcro strap. It's got the Bauhaus dog bone logo on there, and room for your motor. And this little piece does lower your center of gravity by moving the battery down lower on the chassis. Just for the sake of comparison, I think it's a good idea to show you where the existing battery tray would sit. So let's basically show you that first. So that's where that is, and you can see there is a bit of a gap there on the motor. It sits up quite high. Let me just rest it on the ground, and we'll get a ruler out, 2.5 inches off the ground or so. Now let's take that off and replace it with our new low CG battery tray, and that's going to, it's not going to be a huge difference because there is, you know, limited amount of space, and they want to make sure that links and everything are going to work, but let's see how much that's brought it down. Oh wow, about 1/4 inch. It's brought it down about 1/4 inch. That's fantastic. So that is only going to help performance. Let's get some bolts put in there after we insert our battery strap. No need to drill any other holes. It's all just kind of using the existing stuff, which is great. Bauhaus has always done a good job on their 3D prints. They're always pretty accurate and very well designed. I love it when things are like a direct bolt on. You don't have to adjust any holes or move anything around. There you go. That's a battery tray installed. Let's move on to the next part of that Bauhaus low CG battery tray, and that's actually a replacement for the front shock towers and ESC mount. So you're getting a nice little twofer on this one, and the price is right too. So what this is going to do is move our stock ESC lower down on the chassis as well. You can see that it's going to, in fact, move it almost to a diagonal sort of positioning, which is really going to help things a lot. So let's get to installing that. First things first, we're going to separate the motor from the ESC. Then we're going to remove the shocks and remove this screw, which is holding this in place. And we'll remove that bolt as well, because this is all part of the same assembly. And repeat the process on the other side of the truck. And your servo wire, remove that as well. And then we can just lift that piece right out. And let's install our new low CG ESC tray. It's pretty easy to pull those chassis rails apart and just put your piece in place. And then just replace all the bolts that you removed. All the stock holes line up. Conveniently, if you are installing this on another model of SCX24, Bauhaus has already thought about your shock positioning. And if you're so inclined on a longer wheelbase truck, you can choose either of the two shock mounting locations to kind of vary the amount of rake that you get on those shocks and change the performance of the vehicle itself. We're going to go with the stock location for the deadbolt. And we just repeat the process on the other side. And there we go, new ESC mount installed. This is a big ESC for this truck, and Josh already went to the trouble of decasing it. And that's a pretty cool free mod, I do have to admit. But I think we're gonna just skip that process entirely and go to something that I've been kind of saving up for this week. And that is the Furitek Lizard ESC. This is both a brushed and brushless capable ESC, and it's chocked full of really amazing features. Wait until you see this thing. It's hilariously small. There it is. That's it there. There's your motor connections for a brushless motor. You can, of course, create a connector for a brushed motor, which is totally awesome as well. There's a switch there. There's your ESC control out to your receiver and the Bluetooth module. So that's all there is to it. It's super small. We're going to mount this to the truck right now because it's ridiculously easy. Let me go over some of the features of the Furitek Lizard ESC. Not only is it brushed or brushless capable, it's a 20 amp or 40 amp ESC on brushless with FOC tech, which is pretty amazing. If you don't know anything about FOC, I've probably got a video up here that I can link to. Designed specifically for the Axial SCX24. It's got a 5.5 volt, 1.5 amp built-in BEC. It's super small and lightweight, as you can see. Programming through Bluetooth via Android or iOS. Firmware upgrades are available. Real-time telemetry is available as well. And it'll work on AAA batteries or 2S LiPo, which is pretty amazing. It's super small, super lightweight, and it only weighs 2 grams, believe it or not. Pretty amazing stuff. And really sits up there on the Bauhaus low CG battery tray pretty nicely, I have to say. We're really actually doing a lot for performance in this truck, because when you add this, I know it's not super heavy, but it is certainly heavier than a Lexan body, and you add this cage on the back, you are changing the center of gravity. And I'm doing my best to kind of get some of that weight back down low again. And I think by reducing the amount of weight here and lowering all those components down, I think we're definitely on the right track. If you weren't doing what I'm probably planning on doing, and spoiler alert for week 6, if you wanted to run the Furitek ESC on just brushed power, on the stock brushed power, it's pretty simple. You can just take the included 3-pronged motor controller and cut off all of these connectors. And then just take any two, either these two or these two, and connect them directly to your existing brushed motor. Just cut off the connector there and solder those on, and you're good to go. At 50 bucks, it's not a cheap upgrade, but because I've saved money in previous weeks, we're making it work. So I think it's pretty good. I'm pretty excited to get that up and running. And the fact that it'll run in brushed mode is great, but let's be honest, you know I've got plans for next week that I just have to save for, because I'm doing my best to not go over budget any week. And I think that, you know, doing it in this approach really does kind of create this sort of sense that I'm building on every week and things just keep getting better. And rather than just, you know, spend all of my money this week and not have any money for next week, I get that opportunity to try a couple more upgrades and spend a little bit more in other places that this truck will desperately need. So there you go. That's what's happened so far. Lots more stuff to happen, of course. The body needs a significant upgrade in terms of its finishing. I really like the idea for paint that someone came up with on one of the streams to do like a tiger stripe. So we're going to do that. The wheel wells will definitely need to be extended a little bit, and there's going to be a lot more mechanical and electronic upgrades to come. One thing I will note is that with the Furitek ESC, you will need to supply your own receiver. There isn't one included on that ESC. So that's also sort of a plus/minus. I will have to incorporate the cost of a receiver into the build. And I don't think that you can really do that any other way. You have to spend the money on that, and that's sort of the best way I can see to being above board. I think it's kind of necessary and important. So we'll definitely be adding a receiver. Yeah, we'll just have to find the money for that. Where's that blank check? I'll be sure to put a link down below to where you can pick up all this stuff to upgrade your SCX24. And for this week's question, would you consider brushless? Do you think that that's a worthwhile option in this platform? It is a smaller platform, and is brushless something that a truck like this really needs? Let me know down below in the comments. You know I love reading through your feedback, and I try to answer as many of them as I can. And if you're enjoying this video and you love this series about upgrading trucks, hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you get updates anytime there's a new video from the Scale Builders Guild. I'm sure Josh is also going to do this upgrade. He spent a lot of time decasing his old ESC, which I know and you know he probably wasn't going to use anyway. But this is a really excellent solution. I'm really happy with how this looks. Time to do the tally for the week. I started with $31.07 remaining from previous weeks. Add that to the $50 for this week, gives me $81.07 to spend. I spent 50 bucks on the Furitek ESC and 20 bucks on the low CG battery tray from Bauhaus RC for a total of $70. And you can't forget that I spent 43 cents on the rear hinge mount for the ECX Barrage rear cage. So we're going to make sure that's in the total, which was $70.43, leaving me with a remainder going into week 6 of $10.64. I'm pretty chuffed with the process on this. It's really coming together exactly the way I wanted. There are a ton of upgrades that I've already kind of been thinking about and trying to budget for, and who knows how far I'll actually get before I run out of cash. Because there's a lot of stuff you can get for these tiny trucks, man. It's like there's almost more for these than there are for some 10th scale models or 9th scale models, whatever you want to call them. But wow, I'm pretty excited going into week 6. I think that's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.